Hello, everybody, and welcome to another PureDriven podcast. My name is Steve Rockwood. I'm joined today by the CEO of PureDriven, Christopher Swanson. How are we doing today, my friend?
Good, Steve. It's a beautiful fall day here on the North Shore of Lake Superior, and you just can't beat the colors. It's absolutely gorgeous.
It is.
And love fall.
Yesterday was October 14th, and my wife and I drove through basically a blizzard, so that was interesting in nice Minnesota here.
Yeah, when you get up in northern Minnesota, even southern Minnesota right now, it's been kind of weird weather.
Yeah, it was snowing a lot in southern Minnesota. There's 3 inches down there. It's crazy.
Strange pictures of leaves that are still green on trees and snow. So
yeah, but hey, it's nice. At least it's sunny.
Yeah, absolutely. Sun makes it nice.
Yes. So today we're going to be talking about uniques in businesses and what makes different businesses basically unique from each other and why you would choose one over the other, especially in industries where a lot of what they do is very similar, but the way they do it may be very different. So, Chris, what would you call a unique? How would you define a unique of a business?
Well, yeah, let's take a step back, Steve, and just talk about some of the vernacular that people use around uniques. For example, a lot of times you hear differentiation.
Yep.
And that's definitely can be a unique for sure. But the unique aspects of your business versus other business, and of course digital marketing and social marketing that we do today, so often I'll be talking to people who will say, oh, you do the same thing that everybody else does. It's a commodity. And that's what they kind of lay out for you as you talk to them. It's like, well, I can go to this agency or this agency or this agency, and they're all going to basically do the same exact thing. And I smile because I think all of us have traveled on airplanes. At least most of us, I'm sure, have.
Yep.
And I've traveled on many different carriers, whether it's Southwest, Delta, United, on and on and on. And it amazes me, if you really pay attention, how different each one of the experiences is. And as you look at a company like Southwest, I always talk about Southwest Airlines because they were so good at defining their uniques. And they said, hey, a long time ago, we want to be a company, an airline that's on time. We want to be one of the cheapest. And we want to have fun. And if you've ever flown on Southwest, you'll typically, the way they board everything and everything else is they're always looking for efficiencies. They make it extremely simple. So that they can get people on the plane and get out and get to their destination on time. If you go look at their pricing structure, their getaway and everything else is a lot cheaper than a lot of other airlines. And I've had numerous situations on their flights where they're pulling out the harmonica, the pilot is, or whatever, or they're doing a fun rendition of the safety briefing that they give all the passengers before the flight. And so they've taken those 3 uniques and really defined them and said, here's how we're different. I guess that's my point I'm trying to make, is that every business is actually unique in some way, shape, or form. And if you can find the things that you're good at and you're uniquely skilled at within your business as a whole, and then communicate that, obviously, do that and communicate that to your clients, it can create a really great customer experience. Customers who are looking for certain things will understand, if you clearly communicate those uniques, that they'll get what they're looking for. And so that's very important in the world of business today.
Yeah, definitely. So with your example, I think a lot of people, when they think of uniques, they probably think of it on a product level. So they think, what makes their product unique, not necessarily their business. But when you're looking at a business and the uniques, you're really looking at the way they do business. So for your example, it's not that Southwest has faster airplanes, it's the way that they use those airplanes, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, great point, Steve. That is a great way to talk about this, and that, everybody pretty much has the same types of airplanes, although Southwest buys pretty much exactly the same type of airline or airplane over and over and over again because they understand it, they know it, and that makes them more efficient and less costly to the passenger.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's exactly a great point, and hopefully that helps describe for people that are listening to this podcast what we're talking about as unique.
Yeah, definitely. So we're going to talk a little bit about the PureDriven uniques today, and we're really going to focus on one. So what we're doing is the unique of the week for the next 3 weeks here. So we're really going to focus on one unique every podcast for the next week here. And today's first unique of PureDriven is we care. So Chris, you are actually the mastermind behind a lot of these uniques. You talked to basically the whole team to figure these out and to really choose the ones that you thought fit us the best and what we were already doing. So would you care to explain what we care means?
Well, I would love to. As we look at the different uniques, and appreciate you giving a little bit of the background. As the visionary and CEO of PureDriven, one of the things I had to do is kind of take a look and find out and own basically a rock around figuring out what our uniques were. And we've prescribed to a management system called the Entrepreneurial Operating System, or Traction EOS. And it's been great for us because one of the things that they talk about is, what are your uniques? What do you do uniquely different? And so I ended up getting tasked with a rock to go and interview and find out, not just from clients, but also internally, what makes PureDriven special and unique, especially in the customer's eyes.
Yep.
And we care was one of the things that really came out for PureDriven. And the reason that was important, as much as that may sound like a cliche statement, maybe it's kind of like Southwest saying, we're going to be fun, is that what I've noticed from my team is just this big want to create success for the people that we're working with and working for. And it's such a big drive that I see us many times going above and beyond what a normal client experience would be to make sure that that client understands that we care about their business success, achieving the numbers that they need to be successful in their business for the investment they made, as well as caring about them as an individual. I think sometimes in business it's easy to get cold, and I don't mean that in a icky way, but cold being that we just kind of start to do the same thing over and over again, and we don't realize that at the end of the day it's human interaction that really matters. And it's for us, it's caring. We care about that human, that person that has that business, again, on an individual level as well as for their business. And so as I went back and interviewed and asked questions, it became so evident to me that that is the number one thing that really differentiates PureDriven. And we have a ton of great stories that exemplify that. For example, one of the things that I hear so often is, this person took care of something really quickly on maybe a Sunday. And we try to avoid those kind of things, right? Because, we want people to have in our company some time off. And so Sundays are kind of a time when people are resting. But if that situation occurs, I've had a number of people that are clients say, I can't believe how well your staff took care of me. They got back to me quickly. And so that's one way of showing a customer that we care.
Yep. And actually, an example of that, yesterday was Sunday, and one of our employees here actually runs a website about football, and he loves the Minnesota Vikings probably more than anything in the world. His wife might come second. It's close. And I had a question for him yesterday, and it was like 3 o'clock, so I knew the Vikings were probably still playing, probably about 30 more minutes left. And I was like, I have a question for him. It's not urgent, but it is client related. And I was like, I'll just give him a call and see. And I called him. I was like, hey, I feel bad. I'm calling you during a Vikings game, but I have a question for you. He's like, yep, anytime. And he just paused the game and talked to me for 10 minutes and then went back to what he was doing. So I think we really do care. Even if it's not an urgent thing, we go out of our way to really try and make everything right, kind of no matter what the circumstances.
Right. No, and that's what's neat about a culture and a uniqueness about us. We care about our clients, but we care about each other. And so that leads to great client experience, because had you not been able to get a hold of that individual on a Sunday while they were watching the Vikings game, then you'd have been stuck in a situation where you might not have been able to get the answer back to a client quickly. And that might not have been the case too, but it could easily be the case. And that's really why it's such a near and dear thing to our company.
Yeah, definitely. So I think that we care is a really strong, unique here at PureDriven. I mean, I've been here for 3.5 years, and I really do feel like we do listen to everyone. I'm sending out surveys a lot as the marketing manager here. We do send out surveys to clients and even non-clients to see how we can improve or what they really like about us or what they don't like. And it really helps us as a team to kind of move in the next step, get that next direction going where we get feedback from the people we work with. So I really do feel like we do care about that, and it helps them and it helps us improve in the future, which is awesome.
It is. And one of the things that I've really been pleased by is an open, honest approach to issues. If you care about people and you want to help them, you have to be able to be open to receive information, open to have people push you, but also honest.
Yep.
And we struggle with the Minnesota culture. I mean, many of you have probably heard of Minnesota Nice. Really what that is, if you don't know what Minnesota Nice is it's basically a cloaked way of not really telling somebody how you really feel. Mm-hmm. And so you cover up with this kind of smile and a helpful hand, but you're grumbling the whole way. And that's the opposite of what our culture is, truly caring and being open and honest with each other in a respectful and kind way. Approaching people, whether it's a client or internally, and saying, here's something you need to know that's very important for you, for your success. Sometimes those are difficult conversations.
Yep.
Often they're very difficult conversations. But those who are open to that and accept that often are able to grow. They're able to do better because they're willing to listen and then learn and then apply what they've learned.
Yeah, definitely. I think that basically covers it, Chris, for the We Care portion of the PureDriven's 3 uniques. We're going to cover the other 2 in the coming weeks here, but if you do want to find those, they are on our website, so you can easily find those under the About tab if you want to get the spoiler beforehand.
I mean, one last point, Steve, before we get off the air here, is that, when you start thinking about We Care, understand that even though that's unique to us, it's something that we like everybody to, or we love everybody to understand and do within their business. So that's why we talk about these things on podcast. But the biggest thing is nothing is perfect. And the key to this is to just constantly, again, being open to trying to do things better. So when it looks like maybe in a situation in your business where maybe it's something happened, instead of rushing to judgment and thinking that maybe somebody intentionally did something or something is not working because maybe you've seen that happen before or whatever, We Care also, the flip side of that is to really look at something and say, hey, before I'm going to make a judgment about this, I want to understand. And I think that's really important to understand that flip side of We Care. And I'm sorry I'm taking a little more extra time here to talk about that, but it's something that's important as you're really working with people, because I've found so often I've had people make judgments on something that maybe I'd done, and they were way off base.
Yep.
And until you have that honest conversation and can be open and honest with each other, that We Care doesn't really come out.
Yep. And then one more point on that is when there is something that does require a conversation, we always go with the phone call approach, where a lot of people might send, a difficult conversation. They might try and do it over text or email to kind of avoid anything that might pop up during that. But we make sure that all those are taken care of over the phone so that you can really talk it out and see, both sides of the story without having that weird conversation go through on email or text.
Right, and even in person's better if you can.
Definitely.
I know a lot of the work we do, it's over the phone because it's hundreds and thousands of miles apart from each other. But yes, and I've made that mistake. I can stand here today and tell you that I have made the mistake of sending off an email that was a big issue, and at the time thinking, well, this is exactly the way I should be dealing with this. But I've found so often just having that conversation over the phone, in person, while it can be difficult, it leads to a better result. It gives you closure, which I think is really important.
Yeah, definitely. It lets both people talk at the same time and not overthink it or underthink it. You just have a conversation and you find a solution, or you find what the root problem was, because sometimes you might both be wrong as to what the problem was in the first place,
Exactly.
Alrighty, well, that is what we have on our first unique of the week here. Make sure to follow the podcast, and you can find it on Twitter, you can find it on iTunes, you can find it on our website at puredriven.com/podcast, and you will probably find it in your email inbox as well. Thank you for joining me today, Chris, and I will see you next week for the unique of the week number 2.
Thanks, Steve. I really appreciate it. This is always fun.
Have a good one, everybody.